Hi everyone, I am Katarina and today is the 5th of April, meaning that we are back with another lovely fancy fold card challenge for you. This month we are making double slider cards, which is really exciting. So if you haven't heard about this challenge yet, this is run by Monika, aka Paper Mona, and all the other ladies in this challenge are Monika, Christine, Jenny, Kerry, Sabine, Emma, Denise and myself, and all the other channels will be linked in the description box below. Make sure after watching my video you go over to their channels and check out what they made as well. It's always interesting to see how we all have different takes on the same card fold. So this is really amazing group to be in, and if you would like to join in, you can share your makes on social media by adding the hashtag FFC Challenge 2023, or search us on Facebook. There's a Facebook group called the Fancy Fold Craft Challenge where you can also share your makes. We would love to see what you're coming up with. So for my card today, now I'm going to admit this one caught me out a little bit. Normally I don't find it too hard to figure out fancy folds, but this one kind of just, I don't know why, it messed with my mind a little bit. So what I do when this happens, I go on YouTube and I watch a couple tutorials and I follow one of the measurements from there. So I prepared this one in advance, this card. And these are the measurements that I got from YouTube video, from an older video of Sam Calcutt's. I think she shared it like 7 or 8 years ago. I will leave a link to it in the description box below. So these are exactly the same measurements as hers were. And this card measures 4.5 by, from the slider to the end of the slider, 5.5, so 4.5 by 5.5. The card that I'm going to make today, I tweaked these measurements. We're going to go with a bigger one, but you can see how lovely that works. And I can put messages or sentiments on either of those wings because this is popped up on foam pads, so there's quite a lot of room there. I can still add an extra layer, so when I'm ready to send this card, I will be adding my messages or sentiments in there, and there's also a lot of room to write your message at the back. As you can see, for this one I used a lot of sparkle. All the products that I used on this one are from Chloe's Creative Cards: the papers, the flowers, the glitter, the foliage, and the little sentiment tag as well. And again, I followed Sam's design for this one. It stands up beautifully and displays just like so. I really love this one. I'm not sure why I was so afraid of trying this one. I kept putting it off. I tweaked the measurements a bit. The size of my card is going to be, or the front of the card, 5.5 by 5.5 inches. And you can see the size difference in there. So the one that Sam posted back then was 4.5 by 4.5. I'm going to make it an inch bigger. I did work out measurements also for a 6 by 6 inch one for the face square, but I thought it was a bit too big for what I'm working with today. So I have a 5.5 by 5.5 inch square. And I'm going to show you what I'm using today. So I decided to go with the Joan Next Door kit. I need to make a masculine card, and I think these are perfect. I already made a masculine card using this kit. It was a very different one. I will leave a link to it in the description box below if you'd like to check that out too. So the paper is from that kit, and this one measures 5.25 by 5.25. For the card space that is going to create my mechanism, I have a heavyweight white piece of cardstock measuring 5.25 by 5.25 inches, and I'm going to make my scoreboard in here. On one of the sides, doesn't matter which one because this is a square, I'm going to score down at 3/8 of an inch, so this is the third line on the top, down to the next 3/8 of an inch, which is in here. It doesn't have to be exact because you'll not be seeing any of these, but as long as you come down in around the 3/8 of an inch mark, and do the same again at 4 7/8 of an inch, which would be 1, 2, 3/8 in from the end, and down to about the 3/8 of an inch of a mark. Then turn it the opposite direction and find your 3/8 of an inch mark and just score down between the two score lines that you just made. So you would end up with something like this. I hope you can pick up on that. And we'll do the exact same thing on the opposite side. So we mark down at 3/8 of an inch, down to about 3/8 of an inch, and then again at 4 7/8 down to 3/8 of an inch. And now I'm just going to join those two score lines with another score line, just like so. Now, instead of the 3/8 of an inch, you can work with 1/2 an inch sections if that's easier for you. I just went it with that because I did that in the first card as well, so I thought it was just quite easy done. Now for this bit you can use your trimmer. I'm just going to use my scissors to just cut this away. We'll not be seeing this section at all. This will be hiding behind our panels, so it doesn't have to be too neat, but just cut away those sections that we just scored. So now we will need a piece of plastic. The piece of plastic that I'm using is just from one of these plastic sleeves, and I've cut into it. Now, if you've seen my videos before, you know that I use these cheaper ones, the very thin ones, for die cutting a lot, so I really don't mind cutting into it. It's very inexpensive, and this works fine. But you can use anything from packaging that you get your crafty stash from, or your groceries in. So this one measures 4.5 inches in width, fits exactly between those two 3/8 of an inch bits in there, and it wraps around this in abundance. I will be cutting away any excess. So I have the whole length of an A4 size in here, but I will not need it to be that long. So what I'm going to do is use some red liner tape . And now I'm going to wrap my plastic around it, so it's not too tight, but it's not too loose either. So it can freely move around the piece of card, but it's not too loose. And now I'm just going to cut away all this excess. I don't need this to be overhanging in there. And just make sure that the tape does not stick to your cardstock on either end or on the inside, so it has to be able to freely move. So this will be my mechanism. Now we are going to create the pieces that will go on top of that. So I have two pieces of cards in here, and these measure 5.25 by 4.5, and I have two of these. And I have two pieces of pattern papers in here, and I'm using this from the same paper pad, and these ones measure 4.25 by 5 inches. So again, 4.25 by 5 inches. So I like what I've done on this one in here. So it is the corners are around it, so that's what I'm going to do with these ones as well. And this idea came also from Sam. You can see how there's that extension in there. This really just strengthens up the whole mechanism and just adds a little bit of an interest. So I'm gonna do that again. For that, for my size of card, I've got two pieces of cards measuring 3.5 by 5.5. I have two of those. I'm going to round the corners on those as well. So now these are going to be the two pieces that I'm going to be pulling out of my mechanism to make this work. So to do that, I'm going to line up, see this join where I joined up my cellophane, I hope you can see that, or the plastic sleeve. I'm going to add it right till the end, just against that edge, because that means that when I'm moving this, it will only have to come out to here. It will never have to go over the band and get stuck in there. So if I just keep it right to the edge in there, and then I'm going to add a strip of red tape just on top of that. Again, make sure you do not tape this to your card. I'm going to take one of them and just making sure that the writing is the right way up here. I'm going to add this, making sure it is nice and straight with the edge in there, just like so. And now for my other side, this will have to go underneath. So they are opposite to each other. So when I'm pulling at this one on the top, the bottom one with the plastic sleeve moves to the left automatically. So it's quite a clever design. I actually am quite addicted to making these now. So I'm going to add this time my tape onto the top of this piece here. Now I'm going to turn this over, making sure it's all lined up. And this will have to go against this edge now, so it goes the opposite direction. So now this is how the mechanism will work. I'm going to burnish this die now that I know it works. So now I need a card base, which is one that measures 11 by 5.5 inches, cord die in the middle, giving me a 5.5 by 5.5 inch square card base. And now I'm going to adhere this to my card base by adding foam pad just to those sections there. This will make sense in a little second. So the sections that I'm going to add my foam pad to are those 3/8 of an inch strips on the top and the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to use some foam strips that I have in my stash. So by adding just a little bit of a liquid glue on top of the foam tapes, I am just going to ensure that I have a little bit of a wriggle room. So I'm going to try to center this on the card. And so now, once this is adhered to my card base, I am going to add my foam strips to the top and the bottom on the front in here, to the same section as I added the foam strips on the back. Now I'm going to add them on the front. So now I have to put this on nice and straight, so I'm just going to go by the edge on the top in there, from corner to corner. And because I have that liquid glue on my foam tape, it leaves me with a little bit of a wriggle room before it will stick in place. And this looks good enough, so I'm going to press down on it, make sure it catches on real nicely. And this is the card base ready. Now I'm going to decorate my front. I'm going to show you what I've prepared for decorations, but before I do that, I just want to show you. So I have a top folding card in here. So I have a top folding card where you can add your message in the middle, and then the front bit will be decorated. On the first one that I shared, where I followed Sam's instructions, she had, instead of a top folding card base, she had made it into this stand. So if you want to do this, just take a piece of white cardstock measuring 3 inches by 5.5, and on the 3-inch side score down at 1/2 inch, 1.5 and 2.5 inches fold it in half in the middle score line, and then fold the other 2 bits up, so you end up with this shape in here. And then I am going to turn mine into a stand. I think it just adds a little bit of a different interest to a card. So I'm just going to add my glue just to that 1/2 inch section, and notice that I did not burnish these score lines. I want them to be nice and springy. So with the 1/2 inch tab folding upwards, I'm going to glue this on the inside of my card. And of course you can do this to your card base before you add all the mechanism onto it, but I just wanted to show you that you do have an option just to leave it as a top folding card. You really don't need to add this stand in it. I just really like that idea on the first card that I made, and I thought, why not try to make this one just a bigger version of that. So I'm going to, again, I added my glue to the 1/2 inch of a tab. I'm going to fold this over, just applying a bit of pressure, and just like that I made it into a stand. So now to decorate the front of my card, I have several things prepared in here, and they are all from the John Next Door kit. So I'm going to show you exactly what I made. So I have a piece of card that measures 4.5 by 4.5 inches, and this started off just as a plain white card. I ran it through my die cutting machine using the embossing folder, which is gorgeous, and I used my Salty Ocean to add this detail onto it. So I used my brayer for the raised details, and then I just blended gently all around the edges. Separate the colors from each other. I have a slightly larger white border around it. I think it definitely makes a difference. That one measures 4 3/4 inch square. And now I'm going to pop this panel up on some foam pads. I have die cut and prepared a few things using the dies. So this is the die set that comes with the kit, and if the kit is still available, I'm going to leave a link in the description box below. I know it's very disappointing and very disheartening to hear the news about Craft Stash. I was quite shocked. I was, although it's not very surprising, is it? But yeah, I'm a bit annoyed. But the magazines will continue. I seen that in a comment in one of the questions that someone had asked. So the magazines for now are unaffected by all these. So if the magazine is still available, I will leave a link to it in the description box below. This is an amazing magazine box kit. I've used it so many times before. There's so many cards that I already made with this, and I just adore this. And for masculine cards, this is my go-to, definitely my go-to set to go. So what I have here with the square die, cut a piece of white card, and I ink blended 2 different colors on this. One of them grind espresso and the vintage photo. So the vintage photo is in the middle, the grind espresso all around the edges. And then for the next bit, I took these 3 dies. So the square outline one, the detailed cog cornered one, and the larger one of the circles, and I've die cut this from white card, and I'm going to layer this on top of the brown one. I'm going to pop these on foam pads as well, and I'm going to try to center it, but in this diamond shape. You can add it straight if you want, or at a slight angle, but I'm gonna go at a full 45 degrees in here. Now for my next bits, I used the smaller circle, the clock dial, and the larger circle. I cut it from white card, and then I heat embossed it using Turkish coffee brine embossing powder. I really love using this one, but if you don't have brine embossing powder, just add brine color to this, let's say with grind espresso, and then clear heat emboss it, and you would get still that lovely shiny clock face effect. Now I've die cut the same, but this time without the smaller one, so just the larger circle and the clock dial, this one in here, which will allow me to layer this on top, right, just like so. And I'm just going to use my liquid glue gun to do this. Of course, if you don't want to layer it like that, you don't have to. You can just cut out with the smaller one a white circle to go in the middle. But I just like doing that. It gives it a little bit more sturdiness. Now with the larger circle alone, I die cut a white piece of card, and I very gently ink blended with the salty ocean again, just, and didn't ink up my brush, to just whatever was left on my brush. I use it slightly ink blend because this will look so nice and matching to the background in there. You can see how I went with the color much stronger in there. I didn't like it, then I tried to tone it down with brine, but I didn't like it. It went very greenish, so I just turned the cardstock around and I used the other side. So nothing goes to waste. So I'm going to again add a foam pads to this one. And now I have to make sure that the number 12 goes onto the top, just like so. Now I have die cut the hands of the clock from a piece of cardstock that I had heat embossed with the same brine embossing powder, the Turkish coffee. But again, you can just add some brine ink to this and clear heat emboss it. You would still get a lovely brine embossed piece of cardstock. And the reason I love this, because if you're making personalized cards, like let's say you know what time a child was born for a birthday, or what time a wedding is at for someone, you could always personalize the time on these as well, and I think it's such a lovely idea. And now the final detail that I want to add to the front of my card is I stamped all these cogs out and heat embossed them again with the same brown embossing powder. And I have a few in here, and I just pussy cut them. I just cut them out by hands. So I'm just going to try to tuck some of them here and there, and I'm just cutting away any excess bit in there. And I'm going to stamp this on this piece of card. Congratulations and happy birthday. How cool is this? It's also lovely and matching. So I have already made a few cards using this kit. I made a masculine one, and then I made 3 feminine ones. They are the same card, only different, slightly different color variations for Mother's Day, and they all look absolutely fantastic. and I love using this kit, and definitely is one of my favorites out of all the magazine box kits that I have, although I do use quite a few of them actually, not always on camera, but I do use them. I really love these Craft Essential series magazines. They are really, I do think they are good value. And then when you find one that really resonates with you, just like this one with me, it's like a lottery win. I really love how this turned out, guys. What do you think? Do let me know. Okay, so I'm gonna bring in the other one so you can see the size difference between the two. They are both absolutely fantastic. There's nothing wrong with either side. And now you can see how I will be able to add my message onto those wings. Are they called wings? Pull-out tabs? I'm not sure. But yeah, they both stand up beautifully by themselves, and I think it's a lovely card. I really love how this turned out. Okay, so guys, this is my card done for this month's challenge. I for one cannot wait to see what all the other ladies made, and please do go over to their channels. I will have all the links posted in the description box below for you. Check out what they made, and if you like what we are making, subscribe to our channels and hit the notification bell to make sure you get notified when we upload some more absolutely amazing makes. I will see you back soon with my next tutorial or project share. Until then, bye!